Hi everybody, today I'm talking about how to heal your food sensitivities and intolerances for good. Now, avoiding the foods that you're sensitive to is not enough to do this. A lot of people go about this wrong. They take food sensitivity tests to determine which foods they're sensitive to. They cut those out, they do elimination diets, and they just cut out those foods that they're sensitive to indefinitely or until they finally cave and have some and then have to have a flare because of that. Now, this is completely wrong. There's a reason that you are feeling sensitive to a lot of foods, and it's not normal to be sensitive to healthy foods like eggs and milk. So if you're feeling that way or you're sensitive to gluten as well, there's a deeper reason, and the secret lies in your gut. When you heal your gut, you'll be able to heal the root cause of your food sensitivities and make them go away completely. You'll be able to eat these foods again in the future without having any flares. But first things first, you need to know exactly what's causing your food intolerances, and then we can get into exactly what you need to do to overcome them. So first, the biggest thing is going to be leaky gut. Now, if you're not familiar with leaky gut, your intestinal tract has a lining that is one cell layer thick. Now, this lining serves a very important purpose. It is the gatekeeper of what comes into your body and what stays out. A lot of people will actually consider your GI tract to be outside of your body. It's kind of like a tunnel going through a mountain from your mouth to your anus. And just because you eat something or breathe something in doesn't mean it will end up in your tissues and organs and stuff. If your body doesn't let it absorb through your gut lining into your bloodstream, those things will come out in your stool. So your gut lining is the gatekeeper. In order to get food in, it has to be broken down into very small units and then absorbed through specific channels in your gut lining. And that's how you absorb nutrients and calories and fat and protein out of your food. Now, when you have leaky gut, gaps have formed in between these cells. So if your gatekeeper and your fence has a bunch of holes in it, that's going to be a big problem, because now things are going to easily get into your body that are not supposed to be. So this could be chunks of food that are not fully broken down. So you need things to be broken down into individual amino acids or fatty acids or glucose or things like that that are very small units. So if you have a little chunk of food that's maybe 3 amino acids still bound together, and that gets into your bloodstream, that's not something that would normally be able to. So your body will recognize these things as foreign invaders. This can happen a lot with dairy because lactose is what's called a disaccharide. It has 2 monosaccharides bound together. So that is glucose and galactose. And the bond is, without getting too sciencey, it's a beta bond, which is harder to break than an alpha bond. So it's common for people, especially if they don't have enough lactase to break the lactose molecule, to have these little chunks of lactose get into their bloodstream. So this can happen. It can happen with gluten. It can happen with toxins. Point is, once these things get into your bloodstream, your body has an immune reaction to it, because it's not normal to have lactose in your blood. It's not normal to have gluten in your bloodstream. It's not normal to have little chunks of food or toxins or things like that. So your body mounts an immune response, and it starts to remember these things if you're repeatedly eating the same kind of foods like most people do. So if you eat dairy a lot and you're getting a lot of lactose and just chunks of dairy coming into your bloodstream through the gaps in your gut lining, through the leaky gut, your body's going to start to remember lactose as like a foreign invader. And then it'll get better and better at identifying it and mounting an immune response quicker. So then every time you eat milk or dairy, it's just going to trigger that immune reaction very quickly. So this is the root cause of all food sensitivities. Now, the flaws in a food sensitivity test are it's going to pick up on foods that you're reacting to, but that doesn't mean those are foods that cause leaky gut. I had a client, Alana, who did a food sensitivity test and was avoiding over 50 foods for 2 years prior to working with me. And she would see relief from not eating those foods she was sensitive to, because basically her body didn't have these new foods like stored as invaders, so the immune responses would be slower. But the second she'd add the simplest thing like garlic into her diet or eggs, she'd have an immune reaction. So what I did with her was I helped her to change her dietary focus. Instead of focusing on restricting foods that she's like sensitive to, restricting the foods that cause the leaky gut to begin with. She healed and sealed her leaky gut, and in about 2 months she's eating dairy again. She was eating garlic and peanut butter and all these foods, that eggs that aren't bad for you, and not having any reaction to it. Now, gluten typically takes longer. It took her longer to get back to gluten, but anyway, the point is, you've got to seal and heal this leaky gut. So how do you heal and seal leaky gut so you can overcome your food intolerances, stop reacting to foods, stop having foods get into your bloodstream that shouldn't be there? How do you do this? Well, you have to eat in a way that will help you to heal and seal your leaky gut. You want to avoid the foods that contributed to getting leaky gut in the first place and that are keeping it there right now. So that's going to be foods that are really high in anti-nutrients like lectins that can damage your gut lining. So think grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes. You want to cut these out completely. If you want to have some properly prepared like nuts here and there, that's not a huge deal. So if you're soaking or sprouting nuts and then having them, that can be okay. But you really need to cut out all grains and legumes, and especially gluten. Gluten triggers what's called zonulin. It's a protein in your body that basically makes your gut lining more leaky. And the same thing can be said about lectins as well. So it's really important to avoid these foods because they are making your gut leakier. Now, once you are healed, you're able to have them on occasion, but right now you need to cut them out. Now, you also want to cut out seed oils. These are very inflammatory, very damaging to your body, and will only worsen leaky gut. If you're not familiar with seed oils, it's any kind of oil that's made from a seed. So the seed of a plant can be a nut, seed, legume, or grain. So some really common ones are cottonseed oil, corn oil, canola oil, soy oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, or just vegetable oil. So you want to cut those out, cook with healthy fats, animal fats, butter, lard, ghee, tallow, things like that. And then, you also really want to buy all organic because glyphosate is a weed killer that is very, very damaging to your gut lining. And it basically has the same reaction that gluten and lectins do. It increases the permeability or the leakiness of your gut lining directly. So you really want to avoid that. Glyphosate is very heavily sprayed on corn, wheat, and soy, which are all 3 foods you should be avoiding anyway if you're healing leaky gut. But in addition to that, the more organic foods you can get, the better. If you can get 100% organic, that's amazing. But even if you're just prioritizing getting more things organic, that's going to help a lot. Now, toxins, environmental toxins, can also worsen leaky gut, and they can kind of scrape at your gut lining and just cause a lot of issues. Also, if you're being exposed to a lot of toxins and they're getting into your bloodstream, that's just making you have even more immune reactions. So you really want to be mindful of environmental toxins, things like fragrances in candles or perfumes or soaps. Those are really damaging to your body. Let's see, there's so many. Your cookware, you want to avoid aluminum so you're not getting heavy metals. You want to avoid Teflon and nonstick. You want to just pick very clean products, clean shampoos and soaps and dishwasher detergent and laundry detergent and all those things. You just want to be really mindful and read all the labels of anything you're eating or putting on your body, getting more natural fibers, so avoiding polyester and synthetic fibers and opting for like cotton and wool and things like that. It's a huge, giant topic, but mostly your personal care products and cleaning products are going to be a huge one. Make sure you're using clean things and you're not using like lots of hand sanitizer or antibacterial soaps or any of those cleaners that say like kill 99.9% of germs. Those are very harmful to your microbiome, and your microbiome is essential for helping to maintain a strong, not leaky gut, a healthy sealed gut lining. So toxins can play a huge role. Be very mindful of that. Stress can also actually cause your gut to get leakier. So you really want to be managing stress as well. And then you really need to be eating plenty of nutrient-rich foods that are rich in the nutrients that help you repair your gut lining. Your gut lining needs time to repair. Now, it's actually can be pretty quick at this, but you need to make sure that you're not eating foods that are further damaging it, that you're not super stressed, that you're getting enough sleep, and that you are providing the nutrients or the building blocks to actually rebuild your gut lining healthy. So for this, think collagen, and specifically the amino acid glycine that is very high in collagen is the most important one. So drink tons of bone broth or meat stock and just get collagen-rich foods in, bone marrow, bone and skin on poultry, slow-cooked, tough cuts of meat, things like that. Zinc is going to be really important. It's high in a lot of things. Organ meats and seafood are some of the best ones for zinc. Red meat has some as well. Retinol, vitamin A, so specifically the vitamin A from animal foods. This is really high in liver. It's also high in things like egg yolk, cod liver oil, and some other animal foods. You want to get plenty of vitamin D. The sun is the best source, but you can also get vitamin D from cod liver oil, or primarily like fatty fish will have vitamin D in it. Magnesium is really important. Magnesium is such a random nutrient. It's in so many different things, but some of those are going to be like chocolate or berries are really high in magnesium. And then you also want to get enough glutamine in as well, and that's going to be tied in with the connective tissue too. So those are some nutrients, but just in general, lots of animal foods, animal fat, and collagen is going to be amazing. Now, I mentioned broth before. You really do need to be having tons of broth and meat stock to heal, at least 2 cups a day. And that's like a measuring cup. So a lot of mugs are already going to get you to 1.5 or 2 cups. But if you can get 3 to 5, that's even better. And then you really just want to be eating an ancestral nose to tail diet, what I talk about here all the time. So yeah, lots of animal foods, nose to tail. So eat the organs, eat the muscle meat, eat the collagen rich cuts, eat your bone broth, get your eggs in, get quality dairy in if you're tolerating that okay. And yeah, seasonal fruits and veggies, seafood, those should be the fundamentals of your diet. Now, you also need to work on your digestive health as a whole. Our digestive system is that. It's a system. Everything works together. So you want to make sure everything's working well. So if you have leaky gut, but you also have acid reflux, you need to work on your stomach acid and making strong enough stomach acid so that you can digest your food better and there's less chunks of food later on and you can absorb more nutrients. If you've got, sluggish bile flow, that's something you need to work on so that you can break your fat down better. If you've got issues in your microbiome, that's going to be really, really important here. So your microbiome being off can contribute directly to leaky gut. Having a healthy microbiome is very protective for your gut lining. So you really want to eat your ferments here. You've got to eat lots of fermented foods. Now, if you have histamine intolerance, you want to go super slow with your ferments, but you still want to consume them. With histamine intolerance, it is caused by leaky gut. It is fixed by sealing leaky gut, but fixing your microbiome is super important here. So even though ferments are high histamine, you still want to include them, but you want to go super duper gradual. So if you've got histamine intolerance, start small. I'm talking like a teaspoon of sauerkraut juice a day, small, and gradually increase. If you've got no histamine intolerance issues, you can get up to half a cup to a cup of fermented foods pretty quickly. So kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented veggies, anything like that is going to be good. Also, for your microbiome, you want to consume no sugar or artificial sweeteners, and you want to minimize refined carbohydrates, starches, and fruits for now. Some people can still eat fruits and starches just fine and heal their microbiome, while others really need to cut them out or cut back. So just be mindful that can contribute, and I would just go a little bit more minimal on those foods at this time. And like I said earlier, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is the main time your body is healing. You really need at least 8 hours for most people. There are some people in this world that thrive on 6 or 7. It's not very common though. Most people need at least 8. I personally need more like 9 or 9.5, and that's where I thrive. So learn your body. You'll know if you're getting enough sleep because you'll wake up ready for the day and you won't crash later in the afternoon, and you'll just feel good energy throughout the whole day. You won't need caffeine or anything like that to feel good. So make sure you're getting enough sleep. So let's talk about reintroducing foods. So the exact food is going to dictate when you want to reintroduce it. So initially, when you're working on this process and you're changing your diet to make sure your focus is on healing and sealing leaky gut, you still probably will want to avoid some of those foods that you were sensitive to. For example, I worked with a woman named Alexa, and she used to get diarrhea every time she would eat eggs. So she backed off of eggs for a while. We worked on healing and sealing her gut lining, and then she did pick a little bit better quality eggs and was very mindful to specifically get soy-free eggs. But anyway, then she was able to reintroduce those after about, I think it was around 2 months, she was able to introduce eggs again, and then she was fine. So if you're having a reaction like that every time you eat eggs, you get diarrhea, you want to back off for a little bit and give your body some time to heal and seal your gut lining before you start trying to introduce those. If you're having something that like came up sensitive on your food sensitivity test, but it's really nutritious and you don't really notice a huge difference, that's fine. You can start with that right away. My client earlier, I mentioned Ilana, she put garlic back in her diet right away. She didn't wait on that. And most of the food she was cutting out before she introduced, she just waited on, she did eggs right away too. She just waited on dairy and kind of tried that after about a month. I think she wanted to try dairy, tried a little bit, got a headache, wasn't feeling perfect, so she waited a little longer, and then a month later tried again, no headache, no problem, gradually increased it and felt fine. So those kind of foods where you are getting a symptom, you want to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then just when you feel ready, try adding a little bit, see how it feels. If it goes well, add a little more. If it doesn't go so well, wait a little bit longer. Now, foods that contribute to leaky gut, the ones I told you to cut out earlier, you need to wait on those because you're doing all this work to heal and seal leaky gut. Your body is actually just doing this on its own. Your body's constantly working on sealing your gut lining if you have leaky gut, but if you're not working with it, you can end up worsening it. So if you're constantly eating gluten and grains and being exposed to pesticides and getting stressed and things like that, you're constantly recreating the leaky gut. So even though your body heals it a little bit, you then make it more leaky when you do those things. So when we're focusing on healing and sealing those, we don't want to do anything that could potentially cause those gaps to get worse and larger and more leaky. So you do want to wait a while. The longer the better on grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, and gluten. Those are the big things think of waiting on, especially gluten, but really all of those you do want to wait. I would probably wait a minimum of 6 months. You really want to get to a place where all your symptoms are gone, and then you want to stick to this longer after that. I personally did a full 2 years of gluten-free and practically grain-free, nut, seed, and legume-free. I did minimal, but I did pretty much no grains aside from, what did I have? Let me clarify this. I had a little bit of corn, like corn tortillas every once in a while, and that's technically a grain. And I had peanut butter, which was a legume. And then I had a few nuts and seeds that were toasted every once in a while, but peanut butter was the most frequent. I did have a little peanut butter every day. But other than that, I completely cut out gluten, grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes for 2 years. Yeah, I just checked this. It was 2 years. So anyway, the longer you do, the better, the more benefits for your gut. But if you're really anxious to get that back in your diet, make sure you're healed and symptom free for 3 months before you start trying to introduce a lot. If you've been symptom free for a month or two and you really want a little nuts or a little peanut butter, something like that, that's going to be fine. But don't go hard on the gluten. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up. Remember to focus on cutting out the foods that will contribute to leaky gut and cause the food intolerances at the root, instead of fixating on exactly what foods you're sensitive to and have a tiny reaction from. That is just a rabbit hole that doesn't produce very good results and can drive you crazy. If you focus on the simple approach of healing leaky gut, that's going to get you great results, and you're going to be able to enjoy a lot more foods in the future and just feel a lot more food freedom. If you would like more help with this, I offer a program called Ancestral Gut Healing that's designed to help you heal your gut and get symptom-free and pain-free as soon as possible. I work with people personally to help them overcome chronic gut issues like leaky gut and get to a place where their gut's fully healed and they can tolerate more foods. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I will leave a link down below where you can book a call with me, and I'm happy to share more about what I offer in Ancestral Gut Healing and how I can help you heal. So yeah, if you'd like to do that, I would love to talk with you. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in healing your gut naturally with holistic practices and ancestral nutrition, consider subscribing because I talk about that all the time. If you like this video, if you like it or comment or subscribe, all of that helps me out a lot and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.